This is the oldest chocolate house in New York City. Exactly 100 years ago, Li-Lac Chocolates began serving this butter crunch, created by its Greek immigrant founder. Today, it's run by another immigrant who's kept many of the original recipes.
Before working at Li-Lac, I didn't even know what chocolate is.
Anwar Koder oversees the production of over 175,000 pounds of chocolate a year, and he still manages to keep it handmade and fresh. New York City was a major chocolate hub back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with big brands setting up their headquarters here. But many closed their doors in the wake of the Great Depression, or were sold to other companies. Li-Lac has managed to survive, despite going through several different owners and even having to relocate as rent soared. Its secret? Maintaining tradition, from its vintage molds to its tools, and most importantly, the recipes.
That's why we have a very loyal customer base. They know what's going on. They know who we are.
We visited the Artisan Chocolatier to see how this New York institution is still standing. At 8 in the morning, a sweet smell fills up Li-Lac's Brooklyn factory. In different corners, you'll see mesmerizing waterfalls of milk, dark, and white chocolate. The company prides itself on making its confections largely by hand and in small batches. That includes the founder's famous butter crunch, made the same way it was a century ago. It starts with sugar. Anwar still uses a scale that's been with the factory since day one.
The scale itself is over 120 years old. I know even the numbers are gone, faded, but I know where exactly, put it. I'm still using it.
After working here for 34 years, he knows most of these measurements by heart.
And this is what cooking is. It doesn't have to be really precise. It's just the experience.
He hand scoops tapioca syrup into the mixer. This is one ingredient Anwar updated over the years. Originally, the recipe included corn syrup, but Anwar says he's now opting for healthier alternatives. He heats it all up so it turns brittle, then adds roughly 15 pounds of butter.
The cooked butter is just, it just penetrates you, it's in your head.
To give it a crunchy bite, he adds 3.5 pounds of chopped almonds. This layer of butter creates a non-stick surface on the marble table, the same one the founder worked with a century ago.
The marble tables are a part of the heritage in this company. They are been here since 1923.
The marble cools down the sticky mixture while keeping it soft enough to shape.
One of the very old tools we still use it to score all the candy.
Anwar and his team only have about 15 minutes to spread and cut the candy before it hardens. One batch can make 1,500 toffee squares. They shred fresh almonds into a mountain of dust and coat the candy in milk chocolate before mixing it into the almond powder. Throughout the day, Anwar moves around the factory, overseeing the chocolate production line.
Champagne? Okay, finish champagne. Okay, doing it.
He says he's memorized most of the company's 120 plus recipes, and about 65 of them made it into a recipe book that Anwar keeps in a safe.
The recipes was passed, through employees, basically, and that's how it survived. We always talk about the original recipe. All of it in here. It's in pieces. They're not all together, Now I have them all in the computer.
Anwar also added a few of his own recipes, like for peanut butter cups and salted caramels. But 34 years ago, he didn't even imagine he would be running a chocolate factory.
I wasn't like a chocolate fan, basically, to be honest. Of course, like a little, but I wasn't a chocolate fan.
He moved to the United States from Lebanon to study computer programming when he was just 24 years old. But he had to drop out after his first year because his family back home couldn't afford the tuition fees.
I started looking for a job, part-time job, for pocket money.
He eventually landed one with Li-Lac just before Christmas of 1989.
I fell in love with the work itself from day one. I just loved it and picked it up right away.
Anwar looked for opportunities to make things more efficient at the factory. In 2 years, he was promoted to master chocolatier and has been doing the job ever since.
I was running the company. It's like my own company, even though I was just an employee there.
As technology advanced, the company had to adopt to some modern machinery to help ease production. Before, chocolatiers would hand dip every piece. But today, Li-Lac uses an enrobing machine that can coat 1,000 truffles with chocolate in 1 hour.
If any piece requires some designs on it, if the design is made right here and it goes through a cooling tunnel and it comes out the other side ready to paint.
One of the factory's rules is to never freeze its products.
That's when you lose your quality. I mean, we are very well known for freshness. We make small batches.
These tempering machines heat, cool, and mix the chocolate. Without them, the chocolate may look dull and feel crumbly. Employees fill up Li-Lac's specialty molds. And there are about 1,000 of them, including ones shaped like Easter bunnies, pizza, and soccer balls. Anwar has some that are older than the factory itself. These metal molds were made in the late 1800s.
This is actually an antique mold. As you see, it's a metal mold. The images on it, that no one makes them anymore. I mean, they are very rare to find.
And his collection just keeps growing.
Lamborghini, a Mercedes, a Porsche. It's all like from the 60s, maybe worse. Favorite? I like the Bentley, the old one, the Bentley. This comes like this, you see. Come like this. Even the tires, it's a lot of work, you can do it.
Anwar never says no to a custom order, no matter how challenging it may be.
Even if I don't have the mold, I would purchase it. So we're just adding to our existing molds.
This giant turkey mold is almost 30 years old. Anwar bought it to use as a window display on Thanksgiving week. A customer saw it and ordered 15 chocolate turkeys a day before the holiday. Anwar said yes, knowing what it would mean.
I didn't go home that night. I spent all night making turkeys for him and got it ready by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Chocolate took off in the United States in the 19th century, when it became faster to make it using machines. Many iconic brands like Maillard's, Runkle Brothers, and Heiler's opened large chocolate factories in New York City in the late 1800s. Li-Lac was established in 1923 by George Demetrius, a Greek immigrant. But that era of growth would come to an end as the Great Depression loomed. Li-Lac managed to survive, but it hasn't been easy. Ever-rising rent prices have threatened the business for decades. While Li-Lac's shop stayed in the city, Anwar moved the entire production to its first Brooklyn factory starting Easter week of 2005.
The busiest week of the year. I moved the factory in 2 days.
Finding stable leadership has been a challenge too. The company has had 7 different owners since Demetrius died in 1972. Anwar's dedication to Li-Lac paid off when he became part owner in 2011. Today, he runs the business with Anthony Cerrone and a third owner, Christopher Taylor.
When Anthony came and he had in mind, if you want to grow the company, the only condition I have
with him, is I don't want to change the way we make chocolate, and this was fine. He was fine with that.
We both agreed you never touched the recipes of an old school company. That's just something you don't do.
Since they began their partnership, Li-Lac has expanded from 2 New York shops to 6. But as the company continues to grow, quality and tradition remain their priorities.
We sell something that's 100 years old, and people, there's a whole nostalgia to chocolate. You have to know what your traditions are. We all agreed at the same time you had to keep the packaging and the brand fresh.
They make their chocolate in this roughly 9,000 square foot factory in Brooklyn's Industry City. Passers-by can peek through the glass window to see how chocolate is made. Anwar says Li-Lac does not make extra chocolate stock, use preservatives, or freeze its chocolate to sell later. So during its busiest occasions, like Valentine's Day and Easter, the team works to fill orders and keep its shelves stocked.
You buy things, 1 day old, made 2 days ago or 3 days ago.
They also started selling chocolates online and shipping abroad. But everything came to a halt in 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic forced Li-Lac to close its doors right before Easter.
We really had a tough time during the pandemic. Employees went home and no one was working.
What Anwar wasn't expecting was that soon after, online sales would actually soar.
For some reason, people go to chocolate, maybe make them feel better, make them, feel happier, for some reason. We were only a few people here, and orders starts coming. 300, 400, 500 orders a day, and we don't have the employees, to keep up with it. Oh, we work long hours, 7 days a week. We survived. That's what made Li-Lac survive the pandemic.
Anwar's vision is to make Li-Lac chocolates the best, not just in the city, but beyond.
I would like to see the company as #1 chocolate company in the United States. Just to say, what the #1 chocolate company is Li-Lac Chocolate.